You're listening to Winnipeg's Classic 107. My name is Simon Rusnak. The Agassiz Chamber Music Festival features brilliant local and renowned international musicians in a week-long celebration of music making. One of this year's very special guests is the award-winning Swiss Piano Trio. Founded in 1998, the esteemed ensemble has been heard around the world, performing in 45 countries on every continent, all the while cultivating a remarkable reputation as one of the preeminent piano trios of today's age. Joining me in the Classic 107 studio are two of the Swiss Piano Trio's members, pianist Martin Lucas Staub and cellist Franz Ortner. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Wonderful to have you here, and welcome to Winnipeg. What's the experience been like in the city thus far, Martin?
Well, a very busy experience. We arrived on 1st of June in the evening, and then the last 2 days were very busy with rehearsals and concerts. So unfortunately, we didn't see much more than just the university and the hotel, but we want to do some sightseeing afterwards.
Well, hopefully you get the chance to do exactly that. And like you say, a very busy start to your time here in Winnipeg as part of the Agassiz Chamber Music Festival. You performed on each of the first two nights, opening on Sunday and again yesterday. How did it go, Franz?
It was very enriching meeting all these musicians and putting things together which feel really fresh, and everybody brings different things to the table, and because we brought some pieces we have played already, and this matching with new musicians it's always a great pleasure, like these kind of music festivals where like people come together and see what happens.
It's very, very special indeed. And I mean, so often we talk about chamber music as being a conversation amongst instrumentalists, and so often said, music making amongst friends. And these can either be long-time friendships or new friendships that you cultivate over festivals like this one. You get a little bit of a break tonight. But just before we get to what you'll be performing later, we had Agassiz Artistic Director Paul Marlane on the program, and he was just thrilled about your being here, as are the Winnipeg audience too, I'm sure. But I'm wondering if you could clarify something he said, because he seemed to think it might perhaps be your first time in Canada. But reading that list of 45 countries, I'm thinking you've been here before, Martin.
We've been here before, yeah, but not in Winnipeg. So we performed several times in Paris Sound, in the Festival of the Sound, in Ottawa Chamber Fest, and then some other places around, but never. In the middle, in Vancouver we performed, but never in the middle of the country. So it's very thrilling to be in Winnipeg, and I love the festival because the programming of Paul is really very interesting and unusual pieces and very, very interesting musicians. So it's big pleasure to be here.
And again, you get a bit of a break tonight before headlining tomorrow's concert. And before we get to what you'll be performing, I'm wondering if we could talk a little bit about the ensemble itself. As I mentioned, founded back in 1998. Martin, you've been there from the get-go, right?
That's right. Yeah. So me and Angela, we are from the beginning, and so 26 years. It's quite a long period. So I think we are the oldest still performing ensemble from Switzerland. So it sounds a little bit like I'm not yet a pensioner, but
I'm wondering what brought you together in the first place 26 years ago.
Oh well, it was a love for chamber music first of all, and so Angela. She got my wife, so it's a little bit a funny story because we married just 1 day before the first concert of the trio. So
wow.
So the birthdays of the trio and our marriage, it's about the same time, so we never forget about it.
How could you? You celebrate both days then, right? I mean, one is an anniversary, the other is the anniversary of the trio.
We keep forgetting about this day.
Well, you have found such great success. First prize winners at the International Chamber Music Competition in Caltanissetta in Italy in 2003. You followed that up with another top prize win at the International Johannes Brahms Competition in Austria. That was in 2005. You've appeared in renowned halls like the Tonhalle Zurich, the Victoria Hall in Geneva, Wigmore Hall in London, the Concertgebouw in Amsterdam, the National Center for the Performing Arts in Beijing. I'm curious, to what do you attribute the success that you've seen as a trio over this, quarter century plus?
It's always difficult to tell what is the reason really to be there, but it's a lot of work, of course. We always try to perform not only the repertoire, the traditional repertoire, but also new repertoire, and maybe that's also for presenters. It's some key point that our programs are always having some music that they don't know maybe, and we try, of course, we try to really take also risk in the concert and to perform with emotions, and just that the concert is a unique moment, and it has to be different than just a recording where you have to be perfect. But so for the concert, we try to communicate with the public, and maybe this kind of emotional qualities, I hope it will be one of the reasons that we have success.
I think it's very clear. I mean, of course, this is your first time in Winnipeg, so my first time hearing you live, but in your recordings, it's very clear that emotion is there, that the connection to the music, and not only programming well-known composers like Mozart or Beethoven, but also lesser-heard composers like the Eduard Frank we heard just before you entered the studio, which is just a brilliant disc. Franz, you're a newer member to the ensemble.
I'm the new guy in the band.
Yeah. When did you join the trio?
Actually, we did around 12 concerts.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Was it earlier this year or in 2023?
It was in 23, late, autumn 23. And I mean, I'm kind of really familiar with piano trio because I have played 10 years before in another one. And they kind of took me away, two guys here, Martin and Angela. And it's working out really, really well. You know, really fits like a glove. And because, I mean, there are certain things you can work on as an ensemble, but certain things should work right away because you cannot change certain things. And that's definitely the point here. And I'm really happy to be here. I was actually last year I was in Ottawa, so I'm also quite familiar with your beautiful country and
the big country that it is. Wonderful to have you back, and glad to hear that the experience thus far has been a good one with the Swiss Piano Trio. Because
it's just sometimes it's really funny to play with a couple in a way because at some point you're kind of in the middle of everything and you don't know how to position yourself, it's a great process. And
I hope it will be not too complicated for you. But this have to be a psychologist, I hope so.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is going to turn into a very different type of interview.
But it didn't go that far. So
we are very happy to have you because it's the same for us. That it worked from the beginning so well. And it was, for me, very, very nice to hear that when Jim, after our first concert in Winnipeg, he heard us several times before with other cellists. Yeah. And he thought, well, I closed my eyes. I couldn't just distinguish, was it the violin or the cello? It fits so well together, and I was very happy to hear that. So I think, really, we did the right choice.
Yeah. Well, let's talk more about your involvement with the Agassiz Chamber Music Festival. If you're just tuning in, my name is Simon Rusnak, and we have welcomed members of the Swiss Piano Trio here into the studio. Our sole missing member, violinist Angela Gulubeva. But Agassiz, they're here as part of the Agassiz Chamber Music Festival, and tomorrow's concert is titled The Swiss Piano Trio and Friends. You'll be performing music of two composers, Beethoven, the Opus 11 Piano Trio number 4 in B-flat, the Gassenhauer, the popular songs, which features a tune that I guess was popular back in the day from a comic opera that, people would have been whistling or humming on the streets. What made you pick this particular trio to share with the Winnipeg audience?
Oh, well, it just to be honest, we are performing two unknown composers. So
we're going to get to that too.
Paul asked me to add something popular that people know.
So why not go with a popular Beethoven popular trio?
And Beethoven, anyway, we did the complete recording, and I love this Gassenhauer because it's always. It's big fun to play, and it works well with the public, and you can do some kind of musical jokes. So I think it was a perfect start to start the concert.
So let's talk about those other two composers on the program, because like you say, they're not exactly well known, certainly not here in Winnipeg. Can we begin by talking about Paul Juon? Am I even saying his name correctly? Franz, you're pointing to Bart. Tell us more about Paul Juon.
Because he's the president of the Paul Juon Society in
Switzerland. Paul Juon.
Juon, okay.
Juon. It's just a name from the Swiss, the part of the fourth language, Romansch. And so his grandfather was going to Russia, and so he was born in Moscow and brought up there in the class of Arensky, which we performed on the first concert. And then being in Berlin as a professor during almost his whole professional life as a professor for composition. And then in the last years, he was coming back to Switzerland, living in Vevey near the Lake of Geneva. And his wife was Swiss, and he was very attached to he had a Swiss passport. He was talking perfectly German. So in fact, he's some kind of composer between the worlds, but this piece what they are going to perform sounds still very Russian. It's this tradition from Tchaikovsky, Arensky, and still there is some very personal tone in it. And I think it's a great piece of music, and I'm sure people will enjoy it. And as we did when we had the first rehearsals with a Canadian friends. So.
And Franz, what about you? I mean, did you know Paul Yuan's music before meeting sort of the president of the Paul Yuan Society here, who happens to be part of your trio? Did you know his music before?
Not really.
And what's it been like discovering it?
I mean, it's beautiful because, Martin is guiding me through this new world of Paul Yuan. And it's, especially for the cello, I think it's really well written. And I'm really enjoying it so far.
Now, the other composer that you'll be sharing in your headlining concert tomorrow, because again, there's so many languages going on here. Do I go full French? Is it?
It's French.
It's French. So we're going Richard Dubignon for
Richard
the pronunciation?
Dubignon.
Wonderful.
Oui.
So he a contemporary Swiss composer, is that
yes.
right? Tell us more about him.
Well, he was born in Lausanne and living now in Paris. So he's kind of between the worlds of Switzerland and France, so a little bit connection to Paul Yuan. And the reason why we did this sextet, we wanted to have a second piece in the same setting like Paul Yuan's sextet. Mm-hmm. So actually we asked him 2 years ago to write us a piano sextet in the same setting. And he did very well. So it's based on paintings by Adolf Wölfli, which is a very special Swiss painter living most of his life in the psychiatrist clinic, but he did this kind of art brut paintings, which are somehow crazy and very, very unusual, and you can feel it in the music. So he did it like a false valse. You know, you have a rhythm with like a valse, but it's always between having an eighth note too much. So you're feeling coming and getting out of the rhythm, and I think it's fun to play, and for the public. Always some unfamiliar.
One leg in the
air.
One leg
in the air, two left feet. Just an uncomfortable sort of dance. And I mean, obviously, kind of depicting that in his music.
And Richard Dubignon is very, very virtuoso in writing for all instruments. So it's a real piece of chamber music. Quite something to do for everybody.
No, hey, I mean, that sounds absolutely outstanding. Again, that's coming up tomorrow at the Laudamus Auditorium at the Canadian Mennonite University. Audiences with one more chance to see you on Saturday, 1 p.m. You're going to be performing as part of the group of musicians who are performing Bohuslav Martinu's La Revue de Cuisine. It's a delightfully quirky work, isn't it, Franz?
Definitely. It was also quite new to me. I performed it only once. And again, Martin is guiding me through this.
He's chuckling in the corner beside you here. Yeah.
And I mean, it's this time it's in English, of course, because we used to do it in German. And I'm really curious when the cues are and when to jump in and play again. So it's going to be an exciting rehearsing process.
Yeah, because there's that narration, right?
Yeah. It will be not just the music. We have to add maybe this, because we added the text.
Yes, with Andrea Ratuski.
Originally, it's a ballad music, and there is some script by Martin what is happening between this kitchen stuff. So the Mr. Pott and the lead, they are married, and so the very strange stories about all this kitchen stuff. And Ron Butlin was writing just a real story about it, which is so enjoyable. And I put it between the music that we have we played, and there is coming this kind of story. It somehow interferes with the texts, and I think it's highly enjoyable for the public also.
It sounds like it's going to be a great way to close out your time here in Winnipeg. Hopefully you get the chance to explore the city a little bit. Again, you're going to be very busy. The Swiss Piano Trio here in town as part of Agassiz Festival, and so wonderful to welcome pianist Martin Lucas Staub and cellist Franz Ortner here to the Classic 107 studio. You can follow along and figure out what they're up to at agassizfestival.com or classic107.com and click on the events tab. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you
for inviting us.